Hi everyone, welcome to BioXplaining. This is the sixth part of our topic of human reproduction, and this is going to be our final part. And in this video, we are going to cover topics such as pregnancy, then we are going to talk about embryonic development, then we'll be discussing about parturition, and finally about lactation. Okay, so let's begin. And this lecture will be based on the NCERT Class 12 Biology textbook. So let's begin with the first topic, that is pregnancy and embryonic development. So what we have seen previously in our previous videos is that when does implantation occur? It occurs at the stage of the blastocyst, right? So let's just keep that as a quick recap point, that implantation occurs at the blastocyst stage. Blastocyst stage. And if you all can remember that the blastocyst has cells known as the trophoblast present on the outside, right? So what happens is that after implantation, finger-like projections from the trophoblast are formed. And what do we call these finger-like projections to be? They are known as the chorionic villi. Okay, so from the trophoblast, finger-like projections come out, which are known as the chorionic villi. Now, this chorionic villi gets surrounded by uterine tissue and maternal blood. So implantation is occurring, right? And the trophoblast that's present, that is giving rise to chorionic villi. Now this chorionic villi is getting surrounded by tissues of the uterus and the maternal blood. So say, let me explain this in a simple manner. Say this is your uterine tissue, right? With the white color that I've shown. And say this yellow colored thing is your chorionic villi. So if you can look into my fingers, see if I for both the hands, if I put the fingers into each other, suppose this is the uterine tissue, suppose this is the chorionic villi. So fingers are also known as digits, right? So what we can say is they get interdigitated. The uterine tissue and the chorionic villi, what we can say is they get interdigitated. Is it understandable? Right? So they will get interdigitated with each other and jointly form a structure. What do we call that to be? We call that to be the placenta. So once again repeating, chorionic villi from the trophoblast gets interdigitated with the uterine tissue and leads to the formation of the placenta. What is the placenta? It can say that placenta is the structural and functional unit between the fetus and the mother, right? So fetus part is the chorionic villi and the mother part is the uterine tissue. Understandable? So the placenta is said to be the structural and functional unit between the fetus and the mother. I hope this is fine. Now, what does the placenta do? So the placenta is responsible for supplying oxygen and nutrients to the embryo. So first function of the placenta is responsible for supplying oxygen and nutrients to the embryo. Next, it removes the carbon dioxide and excretory wastes from the embryo. So see, what is the placenta doing? It is supplying the useful things to the embryo and taking away the harmful things from it. Oxygen and the nutrients. Oxygen and nutrients. What are these? These are the useful substances. They are giving it to the embryo. And carbon dioxide and excretory products, they are harmful or toxic substances. So that is being removed from the embryo. The placenta also has a few other functions. We'll look into that, right? So what we just saw, if you look into this diagram, you'll be able to find that the placenta is present, which is basically connecting the embryo with its mother, right? Now, if you properly look into the diagram, you'll be able to figure out the umbilical cord, right? So what is the umbilical cord? The placenta is connected to the embryo via the umbilical cord. This part, this thing that I've highlighted in yellow right now. So the placenta is connected to the embryo via the umbilical cord. Now, what were the other placental functions that I was talking about? They are the placenta has endocrine functions. What do we mean when we say the placenta has endocrine functions? Meaning it has the ability to secrete certain hormones, right? Like for example, human chorionic gonadotropin, abbreviated as HCG. So this is one hormone that the placenta can secrete. Then we have human placental lactogen, HPL. This is another hormone that the placenta can secrete. Then we have estrogen and progesterone. Fine. So these are the four major hormones that the placenta can secrete. In the later stages of pregnancy, there's another hormone known as relaxin, which is produced by the placenta and the ovaries. So in total, if you have to talk about the endocrine functions of the placenta, what hormones do you have? First, human chorionic gonadotropin, HCG, then human placental lactogen, HPL, then estrogen, progesterone, and in the later stages of pregnancy, we have relaxin. So what is it that we have to remember? It's very important for us to remember that the hormones HCG, HPL and relaxin, they are secreted in a woman only during pregnancy. Only during pregnancy, right? So HCG, HPL, relaxin only during pregnancy. Additionally, hormones such as, say, estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine. Estrogen, progesterone, you know, are secreted by your ovaries. Cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine, these are also there, right? Like prolactin is secreted from your pituitary. Thyroxine is secreted from the thyroid gland. So all of these hormones, their levels also increase manifold in the maternal blood during pregnancy, right? So this is during pregnancy. The levels will increase several folds during pregnancy. Now, why is it so? This is because increased production of these hormones is essential for supporting the fetal growth. For the fetus to grow, all of these hormones are required in higher levels, right? Then the increased levels will also support the metabolic changes in the mother during pregnancy. And the third reason is they will help to overall maintain pregnancy. Getting me? So why are these hormonal levels very much increased during pregnancy? First reason is for supporting the fetal growth. Second reason is for metabolic changes in the mother. And third reason is for the overall maintenance of pregnancy. Well, so if you look into this diagram carefully, what will you see? That we have already seen that the fetus is present, then the chorionic villi acts like a connection and they are embedded in the endometrium. This much we have already studied about. Now, what are the new additions to the diagram that you can note? You're being able to see something called the amniotic cavity and you're also noticing something known as the amnion. So what are they? This amniotic sac is a membrane that surrounds the fetus. Okay, so this amnion or the amniotic sac is a membrane that surrounds the fetus. What is it filled with? It is filled with water and dissolved substances, which is known to be the amniotic fluid. So this fluid that is present here, this fluid that is present inside the amniotic sac, we call it to be the amniotic fluid. Okay. So first point, what we have seen, that amniotic sac is a membrane that surrounds the fetus. What is it filled with? It is filled with water and dissolved substances known as the amniotic fluid. Next, say you can imagine this, that you have a small plastic toy and you're putting that plastic toy inside a balloon. And now you're filling in the balloon with water, right? So what happens? That small plastic toy is now floating inside that water of the balloon, right? So this toy is now cushioned and protected by the water. Understandable. So it would also be able to move inside the balloon. It will be floating inside the water. Okay, so what we can say is this amniotic sac is your balloon. For the example we just considered, your amniotic sac is the balloon and the water inside is your amniotic fluid, and the toy inside represents the fetus. Getting it? So the amniotic sac and its fluid, they are like a water-filled balloon. So what is their function? Their function is to act as a cushion so that they can protect the fetus. The fetus is well protected and cushioned inside the amniotic sac. Okay. The other thing is that, as we just saw here, that the toy would be able to move freely inside the balloon. Similarly, the fetus can also move inside the uterus. So now, right after implantation, immediately after implantation, the implantation occurs in the blastocyst stage. This much is known. So blastocyst has the outer trophoblast, and we've seen its details. Trophoblast, chorionic villi, how placenta works, we've seen all that. Now inside, what is present? What's there inside the blastocyst? You have the inner cell mass. Okay, so now I am considering this inner cell mass as the embryo. Fine. So this inner cell mass contains certain cells and stem cells. What do we call these? These are stem cells. So what are the stem cells basically? The stem cells, they have the potency, potency means basically ability, okay, to give rise to all tissues and organs. All tissues and organs. Fine. The stem cells क्या है? They have the potency या तो ability to give rise to all tissues and organs. So this inner cell mass which is present, this will differentiate into the ectoderm and the endoderm. Right? अच्छे से एक बार देख लो कि inner cell mass will differentiate into two layers. क्या है वो? One is ectoderm, one is endoderm. This ectoderm is the outer layer and the endoderm is the inner layer, right? So inner cell mass differentiated into outer layer ectoderm, inner layer endoderm. Then what happens? The mesoderm arises where? In between. In between the ectoderm and the endoderm, the mesoderm arises. So these three layers, that is your ectoderm, your endoderm, your mesoderm, all the three layers can give rise to all tissues and organs of the body. I guess this is understandable. Well, so we've understood till implantation pregnancy part is done. Now what we'll do is, let's get into what are the major features of this embryonic development. Now that the embryo will be developing right into the stage that it is about to be born. So what are the different stages? What are the features of embryonic development? Let's focus into that. Acha. So I hope that this is known to all, right? That the gestation period in humans is approximately 9 months or 280 days. What is the gestation period? It is the pregnancy period. That is the time period required for the fetus to develop after it gets implanted till its birth. What is the time period required? So in case of humans, it is approximately 9 months or 280 days. Fine. So with this said and done, let's now get into what are the features of embryonic development. So after the first month of pregnancy, what is the first sign of the growing fetus? After the first month, the embryo's heart is formed. So the first sign of a growing fetus is the heartbeat sound is heard using a stethoscope. So these are all important facts that we need to remember from exam point of view. That is, what are the events that are happening and at what time. So after 1 month of pregnancy, the embryo's heart is formed. And what is the first sign of the growing fetus? Ki the heartbeat sound is heard using a stethoscope. Done. Next, by the end of the 2nd month, what is done is the limbs and the digits have developed. Limbs means hands and legs, digits means fingers. So 1st month, heart is formed. 2nd month, limbs and digits are developing. By the end of 12 weeks, so 12 weeks means 1st trimester is done, right? So 12 weeks means how many months are involved? 3 months are involved. So we say 1st trimester is done. So by the end of 12 weeks now, most major organ systems have been formed. Okay, so the limbs, external genitalia, organs are all well developed. Understandable till now? So just a quick recap. 1st month, heart is formed. 2nd month, limbs and digits are formed. And by the end of 12 weeks, major organ systems are formed. The limbs, the external genitalia, they are well developed. Now, during the 5th month, what happens? First movement of the fetus, that is like perceived, and appearance of hair on the head. So 5th month has 2 events. First, movements of the fetus. Second is appearance of hair on the head. Then by the end of 24 weeks, that means 2nd trimester, okay, what we see is that the body is covered with fine hair, the eyelids have separated and the eyelashes have formed. So 5th month mein first movement and appearance of hair on head. 24 weeks, that means end of the 2nd trimester, right? That means sixth month is done now. So here we see the body is covered with fine hair, the eyelids have separated and the eyelashes are formed. By the end of 9 months, that means the 3rd trimester is also finished now. The fetus is fully developed and is ready for its delivery. Okay, so look into this image that is shown. That this is not from NCERT. Okay, this is not from NCERT, right? Whatever information was given in NCERT month-wise, I have already given. Now these are a little extra info. That is what happens at week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7 and week 8 in a detailed manner, because these specific details are missing in NCERT. So just for knowledge, let's know that in week 4, the heart begins to beat, the arm buds appear and organs like your liver, pancreas, gallbladder, they start forming and the spleen also appears. Next in week 5, the eyes start to form, leg buds appear, hands appear as paddles, blood begins to circulate, facial features start to develop. 6th week, lungs start to form and digits, that is fingers and toes, will form. And in week 7, the hair follicles start to form while your elbows and toes are visible. While in week 8, the face begins to resemble a human and the external ears start to form. So again, I am just repeating that this is absolutely extra info. This is not included in your NCERT textbook. Well, so that said and done, we are finished with our concept about pregnancy and our concepts about embryonic development. Now what are we getting into? The next topic, that is parturition and lactation. So first, what is parturition? Parturition in simple words is childbirth, right? That is, the fetus which has fully developed is now expelled out of the female body, is expelled or sent out of the mother's womb. So parturition refers to the expel or delivery of the fetus. How is this induced? So this trigger that birth needs to occur now, that is induced by a complex neuroendocrine mechanism. What do you understand by neuroendocrine? If you break the word into two parts, you see you have neuro. That means your nerves are involved. And then again, you see endocrine. That means certain hormones are also involved. So the mechanism that triggers or induces childbirth is a complex mechanism dealing with nerves and hormones that we call to be the neuroendocrine mechanism. So what is the first signal for childbirth? That is given by the fetus and the placenta. Okay, so the first signal for childbirth is given by the fetus and the placenta. That leads to very mild contractions. This is important from question point of view. Very commonly MCQs are asked. That is, first signal for childbirth is given by whom? Is it from the maternal side or for the fetus side? So it is given by the fetus and the placenta, right? That leads to mild contractions. This is known as the fetal ejection reflex. Again, this is important. What is meant by fetal ejection reflex? Now, what happens is fetal ejection reflex is there. So this will lead to triggered release of oxytocin from maternal pituitary. That means the pituitary gland of the mother. What does maternal pituitary mean? Maternal pituitary means pituitary gland of the mother. Okay, that will start releasing oxytocin. The fetal ejection reflex will trigger the release of oxytocin from the pituitary gland of the mother. This further, lets the oxytocin act on the uterine muscles. So the oxytocin released from the pituitary will now act on the uterine muscles. That is on the muscles of the uterus. Then this creates stronger uterine contractions. Now this is a positive feedback loop. That is, the stronger the uterine contractions are, the more oxytocin will be released, right? So what we can say that this is kind of a positive feedback loop. Positive feedback loop. That greater or stronger the contractions, more oxytocin is released from the maternal pituitary, right? So due to these stronger uterine contractions, the baby or the fully developed fetus is expelled from the mother's body via the birth canal. What is the birth canal? We have studied that is the cervix and the vagina. Okay, so this process is known as parturition, and along with that, the placenta is also expelled out. So we have come to the final topic of this chapter. What is it? Lactation. So what is lactation? Is the mammary glands will undergo differentiation during pregnancy. If you have some kind of doubts regarding the structure of the mammary glands and all, you can refer to the video. That's the link is being given here on top. So from there you can know about the structure of the mammary glands and how the milk is basically produced. Okay. So lactation point of view is that the mammary glands will undergo differentiation during pregnancy and they start producing milk towards the very end of pregnancy. The mammary glands will start secreting milk by the end of pregnancy. This is known as lactation. This phenomena or this process by which mammary glands will secrete or produce milk by the end of pregnancy is known as lactation. So how does this milk help the mother? This milk is used by the mother to feed the newborn baby, right? Now, this milk that is produced during the initial few days of lactation is known as the colostrum. What is that known as? It is known as the colostrum. Why is it extensively important to feed a newborn with this colostrum? Because it contains several antibodies. When the newborn child is just expelled out of the mother's body, for the first few days, the child doesn't have a strong immune system, right? So the child might be susceptible to various infections and diseases. So this colostrum is a ready-made source of antibodies. It contains several antibodies that are necessary to develop the immunity in the newborn, right? So hence breastfeeding up to a certain age, up to a certain age is highly recommended, right? Highly recommended so that the child is a healthy one with a good immune system. Okay, so that's it about the chapter of human reproduction. I hope I have been able to explain all the concepts in a clear and simplified manner. If you have any doubts, please write to me. Just comment below. And yes, don't forget to like, comment, and share our video. And also, please do subscribe to our channel BioXplaining. Stay tuned. We'll be getting started with the next chapter of this unit, reproduction, very soon. Bye-bye.